Hey everyone, welcome back to Upside Down Data. Today I wanted to talk a bit about Link and where we might think it's going from here. So yesterday I put out a tweet with this chart in it. This is from the probabilistic forecasting model that I have been working on. If you're not familiar with this model, you haven't seen me talk about it yet, basically what it's doing is it's estimating the probability that the price of an asset, in this case Link, will be higher in the next 6 months. So the probability of upside, the price being higher than it is today 6 months in the future. The way that you read the y-axis is just probabilities. So 0.9 would be 90%, for example, 0.8, 80% chance of upside 6 months from now. And so you can see this model did a really great job of identifying these key moves for Link, really falling off here before the bear market of 2022 that led us into this nasty drawdown. And then, as we've now been starting to kind of stabilize, and as the market has now turned a bit more bullish, we've also turned more bullish on this model for Link as well. You can see that we're now up, it's estimating around about 75% chance of upside 6 months from now for Link. So even though Link's price action has been extremely painful to some degree, and how boring it's been, how lifeless Link has been, just stuck in a range for almost a year now, we see that we're finally now, in this case, maybe seeing some signs of hope. The model thinks that 6 months from now, the odds are that Link's price will be above where it is today versus below. Nothing's guaranteed, of course. Still a 25% chance that price will be below from the model's estimate, and that's nothing to just ignore. But certainly you'd much rather be at a point where there's the probability of 75% chance instead of something down like here, 20% chance of upside like we were at the beginning of when we were just moving in here, or especially over here, only 10% chance of upside when we're in the main part of this drawdown in this bear market. So it'll be interesting to see going forward then is, does this model remain bullish on Link? And then, of course, if that happens, that might increase the odds that we're going to see Link maybe finally break out to the upside out of this range instead of, falling down. It's been stuck here so long, you'd hope that this accumulation range that we've been in with Link, something more like we saw over here, a little bit more volatile over here, that leads into a bull run, that's what you'd hope to see. Or something like this as well, kind of sideways movement and then leading to upside. It seems like Link, historically so far, has had these times where it likes to spend a decent amount of time going sideways before making up its mind. When it does, it can be quite dramatic. So we'll have to see if the same kind of thing plays out here as well. So I want to talk about some other models that we have over at our website, claritydigital.io. Leave a link in the description. This is our website that we've launched in collaboration with Jay over at Daily Crypto Analysis. Also a link to his channel in the description. Definitely go check it out if you have not already. So what I want to talk about next was the short-term upside downside potential indicator. So the UDPI, upside downside potential indicator, that is our risk model here at the channel. It quantifies the plausible upside relative to the plausible downside. And so generally speaking, the higher the UDPI is, the higher the risk. The lower it is, the lower the risk. And we have different time frames for this model. This is the short-term version, which is reactive to moves or volatility that plays out in a matter of days to weeks, very much more short-term in its focus. And we also have a medium term that cares about moves that play out over weeks to months, and then the long term, which cares about months to multiple months, even the yearly kind of time frame. It's much more macro at its focus. So I'd like to look at the short-term UDPI to get a sense of where might we see things kind of going in the short term, or how maybe overheated or oversold is an asset in the short term. And we look at Link, what we can see is that really we've been stuck in this kind of lower range on the short-term UDPI during this entire range that we've been in with this price action. In some ways, it kind of makes sense. When you really kind of look up at around 0, approximately, or -1 to 0, that's generally marked the tops of these kind of local rallies where we'll have these local bottoms that form. We then go and set a local top, go set in a local bottom, set in a local top, local bottom, etc. And you see that really playing out here on the short-term UDPI. You're kind of finding support generally down here closer to the -3-ish range, and then finding resistance up closer to 0 or -1 to 0. And where we are right now is right about in the middle of that range right now. We're currently sitting at -1.65. And so, you might look at this and say, okay, that means that we have to go back down, all the way down here to about -3 before we might be able to find support to move back to the upside. Possible. But one thing that I'm keeping an eye on is really ever since the end of December of 2022 going into January, the rest of the market has decidedly been in an uptrend since then. Bitcoin mega so, Ethereum also, and some altcoins as well, showing notable uptrends. In some ways, Link has been really lagging behind the rest of the market, where it's been in a local uptrend. You'll note that we set in a higher low relative to this low, so a higher low over here. And what you'd hope to see now is a higher high relative to this one. And that would be a kind of a confirmation of this local uptrend that we're in. And if that's the case, if we see the market start to turn around, so now that ETH has had its big upgrade, it is not dumped as a result, or at least not yet as I record this, maybe we're going to see another point where altcoins can have some breathing room. We saw a lot of altcoins really move aggressively out of the lows, back in, coming out of last year, and especially in January into February, we saw a lot of altcoins go crazy. And now it's pretty much just been a Bitcoin only run since then. There might be a possibility for kind of the second wave of the alt season to arrive, where Bitcoin might eventually hit some point where people are happy to start taking profits out of it, rotate those into altcoins. And I think what we're really looking for is a broader risk on sentiment to re-enter the market. I think we're still in very much a bearish footing right now, where a lot of people are expecting a correction. A lot of people are expecting things to dump, which is in some ways good because it adds potential kindling to a rally. It adds a lot of people going in short, potentially betting on prices to go down, which then leads to the possibility of them getting liquidated, them having to cover their shorts, which actually creates buying pressure, can move price back up. And I think that what might mean is for people to start to decide that they've enjoyed the Bitcoin rally as much as they have, and they want to look for profits elsewhere, and that leads to a rotation into alts. Now, it's not guaranteed for that to happen. We saw back in 2019, all the way back in 2019, that Bitcoin went absolutely crazy going into 2019. But if you look at an asset like Link, it did move up, but it didn't move up to the same any more than Bitcoin. It basically just followed suit with Bitcoin. But even if we are using 2019 as that analogy, we might still expect more upside because we haven't seen altcoins keep pace with Bitcoin. Really, it's been outstripping them so far. And in 2019, a lot of altcoins did end up at least keeping pace with Bitcoin. And here we haven't really seen that at all with Link. There's a possibility of Link to play some catch up with the market, again, if broader risk on sentiment allows for that to happen. I think that wouldn't happen if broader risk off sentiment returns, Bitcoin kind of catches a local top, and then everything would just dump. And you wouldn't actually see altcoins catch up ever. People would just get all their money out. They wouldn't go down the risk curve trying to get better returns. If that doesn't happen, if we do see some kind of more risk on sentiment entering the market more recently, maybe a lot of the bears capitulate and decide they're going to FOMO in, get long on the market, they try to make up for lost time in these smaller cap assets. Might be one thing that you could see this go up from here. And if that happens, that's when I'd expect this local resistance on the short-term UDPI to no longer act as short-term resistance. I think then we'd probably be targeting levels closer to some of these levels up here, 1.5, 2, etc. Some of these levels that we saw back over here for Link, I think that would be a reasonable target for the short-term UDPI in that scenario. So obviously that's not guaranteed to happen. That second wave of the alt season might not materialize. But I think it's something we can't ignore. There are a lot of people out there who are just saying, oh, altcoins are just going to infinitely bleed against Bitcoin from here. Why would you own any altcoins? Bitcoin is just going to eat them for lunch going forward. And it might. But also we have to realize that Bitcoin has been overextending itself relative to the rest of the market. And oftentimes when that happens, you see a mean reversion where the rest of the market catches up. That can either be because everything just dumps and Bitcoin maybe just dumps harder than altcoins, because it's been more kind of outperforming, or you can actually see altcoins start to move up while Bitcoin doesn't move very much. Either of those scenarios is possible. So the final model I wanted to talk about was our long-term UDPI for Link. So that's what I'm showing you here. And really with this one, so again, this is more macro in its focus, so it's not as worried about that short-term volatility. So you see it not reacting nearly as much to what's going on here, taking a broader view. What you see is that we're hanging out at pretty low levels, and really levels that we kind of generally tend to see for Link at these kind of lows. So we saw this back in 2018, and then again in late 2018, kind of these really low risk levels right around the all-time lows for Link, before we went on that massive bull run. And so if history is any indication, and again, if we can avoid some massive catastrophe in broader markets, like a massive 2008 style crash in the stock market, then I think it's very reasonable to think that has just been an extended accumulation zone where really we've seen all the people who are kind of capitulating out of Link capitulate, all the people want to acquiring in this range, which might set the stage for whenever new demand enters Link. So for example, maybe profits taking out of Bitcoin or just organic new demand from elsewhere that can maybe set us up into that next leg up, help us move back up to see some of these prior kind of areas that might act as resistance, going up into the, $13 level, for example, for Link, $10, etc., breaking above this range here. Now, I don't think that means we just go right to all-time highs, obviously. I think we have a lot of work to do to get past all of the resistance that could be built up in this kind of general range up here. But certainly, if we are going to enter into a more bullish phase of the market, what this is telling you is that long-term, Link has a heck of a lot more plausible upside relative to downside from here. That the tenor of the market has changed. We had our lows, and this is just showing closes. There were some wicks that were quite a bit lower here, marked in these levels down here, like what we saw back over here. And we've been kind of ranging in that general area, but it's probably not going to last forever. I know it feels like this is just going to last forever, and that Link's never going to do anything, and a lot of people are going to give up. But honestly, the more bulls who capitulate on Link, frankly, the more bullish it gets, because that's less and less selling pressure that's going to be there. And then, if new demand enters, the more that we might just be able to slice up through the prices. So these do not have, we don't know exactly when this is going to play out. We know that we have a bullish forecast, but again, nothing guaranteed. Bullish forecast 6 months into the future. We know that the market, at least so far, has been relatively bullish for Bitcoin, also for Ethereum, but the altcoins have been lagging behind. And so, really, when it comes to Link, what I'm thinking about is what is the probability of that altcoin season 2.0, of altcoins having their moment to catch up to Bitcoin, at least on some level. And if that happens, I would find it not hyper surprising, but I would be a bit surprised if Link doesn't join the party. If we see altcoin season 2.0 and Link does nothing, I'd be a little bit surprised by that. I think given what I'm seeing based on the data, we have plenty of room to move to the upside in the short term. We know what Link can do in other times. I think it's plausible to think that Link would enjoy some success in that type of environment. Now, it's not financial advice. You should make your own opinion, come to your own opinion about Link and where you think it might be going. But that's just what I'm thinking about with it. Is I do think that this is going to end at some point, and it's probably going to surprise a lot of people. And it's probably going to happen when most people have given up hope, because that's oftentimes the way that markets work. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm cautiously optimistic on Link, but of course, time will tell. All right, if you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like and follow us on Twitter. A lot of updates, better indicators, and more over there.